Okay, so I'm Kyle Davis, and this is my final update for my final milestone on my Far Cry 5 Team Deathmatch level. So first off, let's get rid of all of these boxes and stuff that's showing up here to show off some of the stuff that I've done. Alright, now that we've turned most of that off and we can actually see what's going on here, now see that I've gotten all of the effects and all of the stuff done for everything that needs to happen through here. We got our audio cues. We got all the set dressing done. I added in the particle effects and the lighting. I've done a little bit with the VFX as well. I have managed to get my different volumes working, so if you noticed, it went slightly bluer when I went in here. When I go back outside, it turns more brighter and red. So I've gotten that working. I've got player spawns working in this version, so now it is a 6v6. It is all set up and ready to go. I have all of my items, so I have armor and medkits, and I have a bunch of weapons scattered around, depending on where you are on the map and what's going on. So if I turn on objects, you'll be able to see these little weapon AK icons. These are the weapons and where you can find them. I had to do quite a bit with the particle effects to get everything to sell right. So I have sparks, and I have this dust, and then I have some of the stuff out in the distance here, so that when you're looking off to the side, it looks like it goes farther. These little red things are my invisible barriers, so players can't jump out of the map. I've done some extensive testing with that, and they work pretty well for what I need. The lighting ended up working out pretty well. I have interior lights along with all of the stuff that when you go into areas, it then shifts what the lighting is like. And I have lights in the areas, so such as through here, along with all the set dressing and stuff that was needed. I also have quite a bit of stuff. I've added in these little areas, so when you go to these are actually destroyable, which unlock new areas with equipment in them. And these pistols are actually quite powerful. So this is a little, if you know a little bit about the game and you have a little bit of forte with it, you know that these are breakable. And there's one on both sides. There's one over on that side, and there's one over here. They're right over by the entrance to spawns. I've given the ability for some higher elevation areas as well, as we see from this middle platform. So in a general match, both players are going to have about 9 minutes. That includes the spawning in time and initializing their loadout, but they'll make a little turn to the right or left, depending on which side they're on, out of either this area or this area here. You can notice two little flashing lights, along with the big blue and red on both sides to signify that these are the blue and red team. Along with that, they have quite a few different ways they can go. So if you come out, you can take the straight route and go straight across. There's also a left and right path, and they lead you around the map as you go. And then the upper path, so if we're looking at this in MOBA tradition, the upper path also has what is effectively your jungle, which would be the upper elevation you can get to, which gives you more access to better weapons, such as a sniper rifle, which there are 3. One here, one directly in the middle, and then one over on this side. Now, along with that, there's also medkits up top, because this is a very open area and it's easy to see you from any portion of the map. Along with that, when we look here, we also have internal elevation as well. So we change elevation from up top really high to our neutral, down into 2 progressively more in-depth areas going into the pit here. And this is part of our strip mine area that we have set up. So with that, there's quite a few things going on. don't even... Oh. Okay, so that's that. Alright. Along with that, I've finished my set dressing, so I have boxes and crates and stuff all over the place to help sell the aspect, along with particle effects going around the areas, lighting, and then just boxes, and then I added in set areas to make this look more believable and lived in. As you can tell, you can hear a lot of wind in the background, along with sparking every once in a while when I get close to certain areas. These are only around the destroyed parts of the building to help sell that as being destroyed, along with having debris that is around the area. Along with that, if you notice, we go inside of an area. So this is wind here. And then when we go inside of a building, it also actually gets slightly quieter. So that was another thing that I did with selling the effects by adding in audio volumes that end up taking up most of the interior spaces to help sell the effect that you're going into a building, so it muffles the sounds, along with having transitionary lighting, and then also this ominous, spooky background music, which I wish I had a little bit more customization to this, because the one I actually wanted to use instead of interior sci-fi horror was the wasteland exterior, but that ends up having a bunch of crickets and other insect noises and frogs chirping, which does not work for the set theme of being on Mars. So that was ended up taking into account, and I did not use it. I added in this background area along with changing my skies so it matched my color coordination of what I'm trying to do here, of contrasting colors between greens and reds. Along with the fact that I'm trying to guide the player with the blues on this side and the reds on this side, that try to show which side is which, and there should always be an icon that you can see somewhere along the map so you do not get lost. Along with that, it is relatively simple for some of the stuff that I'm doing. Here's some more of my blocking volumes to make sure they can't get outside of the map and ruin the stuff. But even if they do, and we take a look at this from really high up so that we can see this, if we look here, I have my damaging volumes, and these are all my kill volumes that once you get outside of the play area, it then will execute you after a certain number of seconds. Along with that, we also have our reflective manager volume, which this ends up showing us most of the technical aspect behind the level. So looking at this, it ends up giving quite a few different things to modify what we're doing in the level. Well, this gives quite a few things. Let me see if I can turn it back on so we can... there you are. So this is our post-processing reflection management, which we have as priority 0 because it's the only one. This gives us a few different lighting options, and also it goes based off the reflective surfaces. So if we look at it from about here, you'll notice some changing out in the distance. So even if we go just to Armageddon 1 here, you'll see that drastically changes the light to something that isn't as reflective, so we don't get as much dynamic lighting as we would with some of the other settings. This was the one that I found to actually work the best for what we're doing. It ended up making it so that the area seemed full of life and had some personality to it while still feeling derelict and run down. Along with this, we've also gotten a bunch of lighting management stuff done. We have our main large volume, which is priority 0, so it's our main one. But then within every building, we end up having some of these. So here's one here, here's one in here, there's a bunch over on this side for these buildings. And these are transitionary areas that we ended up using to really sell the effect by having our transition from interior to exterior for the lighting. This gives a little bit of an added effect once you're going through these buildings. Along with that, we also have audio management, So these are what dictate our actual sound muffling. I have it set at 70% of the initial sound from outside. So this muffles it slightly and gives certain effects based off of what interior you used. We used mostly bunker because that gave a lot of noise dampening. And then I believe we used large interior space, which gave some groaning and a few other noises that worked pretty well. Along with this, we have added in quite a few lights throughout the area, in between like areas such as this, which needed to be broken up, and then we added a few right along the entrance areas that have a little bit of a flicker, so once the clouds go in on our transition from our level, because we have this set to a cloudier setting, so it'll eventually cloud over and go dark almost completely, so you won't get any of these shadows or harsh light angles. So I wanted to still have some stuff that allowed to grab your attention. So between the lights on the pickups that we have, which appear far better once it gets darker, but they're still visible from a distance more so than when you get up close, so they're not obstructive. We also have these flickering lights that also help sell it, along with the different interior lights on both sides that end up projecting out to break up some of our shadows and give us some more inconsistencies. Help sell the effect. We've ended up placing a lot of these containers around just to help fill in the space of stuff that wasn't really necessary. So this helps us just get the feeling set up a little bit more, and also helps confine the player's space to what we actually want them to use. I did a lot of player leading when you see most of these main paths here, but then also we have these like black walk paths that go around the area, and these just help guide the player to some of the other paths that they can go, such as down into the pit, which we then have some lines going showing that they are more well traveled than other areas, along with leading to goodies such as our pickups. Some areas like this are parkour, so you need to be able to at least master jumping and grabbing onto ledges to be able to get to some of these areas. And I have confined the player for a certain number of their abilities so that they cannot just jump out of the play area, as this game is really hard to keep players in an area, and most of the surfaces are climbable. So I can show that by putting on climbable things and show the show climbable ledges. So all these green areas are climbable things, and these are all things that register as something that the character can basically grapple onto, which in this game there is quite a large leniency on what the grapple is. So you can kind of mag clamp yourself to the side of a building if you get close enough on a jump. And I wanted to deter the player from jumping out of the main area, such as raising the area of play so they can't quite get out. And also the other part of it was leading the eye so that while you're within the area, it still looks like one whole facility, even when you're off really far to the side, such as here. You can kind of see that ends, but you can't really. So it just helps sell the effect of this being one large industrial area that ended up getting run down, and most of the stuff ended up being destroyed one way or another. I would have liked to use a little bit more damaged assets, but they didn't really have anything that was the right scale or size. So that was just one of those things I had to accommodate for. Most of these are breaking up line of sight for when shooting, along with just adding some variation to the topography of the area, adding in some raised bumps and raising and lowering elevation to add some inconsistency. Get a feeling of moving around the area more as if it was a natural area rather than just going over one flat surface the whole time. And I tried to break that up by adding in multiple different types of textures. As we see, we have our little gravelly pebble rock, then we go into our streamlined path of dark sand and worn down rock, over to our main chipped Mars pattern, along with our walls of the strip mines being dug out and blackened from the process itself. So we ended up getting quite a few things done, adding in some barrels for cover along with boxes as we went along, and tried to add in some dynamic areas for play and fight. Some areas are only one way, which helps give a consequence of, well, if I want this weapon, I'm going to have to jump down or climb up to this area, and hopefully I don't take fall damage on the way down, because it will kill me at that point. When we go into the character settings, I have turned off most of the gameplay modifiers. Friendly fire is off, along with not modifying the gravity or jump height, even on a Mars area, for gameplay's sake. Along with this, we have a score of 50 for a 12-player total team match, so this is 6 per side, and we have 9 minutes to complete this. The overall concept was to make a level where you had to be more slow and methodical, but I did give the players some things in their loadout that will help that out. So we gave them one Ultimate Survivor, which helps their recovery speed and also their defensive bonuses. So even if they don't have armor, they can still survive a few more shots. And then we also gave them the Fast, which this is their main way of, if they want to go around an area quickly, they'll have to consume one of their 2 fasts before they respawn, along with the fact that they have 2 smoke grenades and 2 regular grenades. So they have some ways to get through cover and through the open areas, but there still is a risk involved with it, as everyone starts off with an automatic weapon to begin with, and you can go and grab shotguns, and also the hidden area weapons through these alien tubes, which ends up giving you a pistol that actually acts as a pseudo rocket launcher. It is very slow, but it is very powerful, and kills players very quickly. It only takes 1 shot to take them to 0 and put them in a critical state, and then the second shot to finish them off, which can be any weapon no matter what the damage is. I also gave them a melee slot just so that it ends up seeming more like they're fighting for resources and vying for stuff that the other side of the station might have. Along with this, I guess we should just go into the game and show you some of the actual stuff for the effects. So let's start this up. So once we start up our area, we'll see our loadout. And once we choose it,
Team Deathmatch.
we spawn within one of the 2 areas, depending on which team we are on, and it is already within our objective. And once you get out, you're directed into this big line of sight-blocking terrain, along with a few things off to the side. Start noticing, hey, this is training the player to see items in a way that we want, along with a few pieces of debris that come off of our bigger structures here, along with some particle effects off them. And then this really directs them to where they might want to go. We have our big line of sight blocking, which has an item in it, but right around the corner it immediately opens up into this big area and gives them our effect of being within a sandstorm. So it's all about just trying to guide the player towards the battle area, which is definitely going to be more towards the center area, and make lines of attrition across this, because players won't want to run through some of the more open areas such as this. So we've allowed for some pieces of cover to allow them to duck and weave where they may need to be able to get around. Also, these are fairly large once you get close, and this map is fairly large to begin with. That's why we gave the players about 9 minutes for the match, because this ends up giving them enough time to actually see something within the map, but still be large enough that they can snipe if they so wish, and also have some version of replayability. Because with multiplayer maps like this that are very large, you might have a preference of an area, and you might want to try something else or different, or just explore. there is quite a lot to do within this. Now, if we look over at our breakable surface, notice it takes quite a few shots, but this also advocates to the other players that something is happening. And that effect does play worldwide, so that is a sound effect letting the players know that someone has found something interesting. And once you get into one of these areas, you end up being able to go around and collect what you might find in this. In this one, we have said blaster, which is slow, but it does a heck of a lot of damage, so that's just one thing to keep in mind. And it is not the easiest thing to aim, so that is something to keep in mind. The weapons are regenning, but once you empty a weapon of its ammo completely, if we do that here, you'll notice it takes quite a long time before you're even starting to recharge again. And the weapon does give indicators as to what is going on, but it is still advised to keep an eye on it so that you don't end up burning through all your ammo and having to find a different area to go to hide. So that is what we're looking at for the level. And it's actually pretty fun to play. I'm going to be throwing this up onto the store, or not the store, the arcade in a few hours, so we'll see how it does on that as well. Thank you for watching, and this has been my level.